Hello, you are tuning into Media Soundwave. My name is Heather Cassidy and today I'm joined by Erik Bognar, the director and founder of Art of Honey. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, thank you.
Today we're going to talk about how to save the bees. There's been a lot recently in the press about how bee numbers are dying out. I just want to find out some more about why is it happening and also what can we do to prevent this. If we look at the numbers of bees in the world and in our country alone, then bees have such a significant impact on our diet. What bees do actually, it's actually part of a third of our diet, isn't it? And also the diet of all the wildlife as well.
Yes, what the bees do predominantly is pollinate all the crops, or most of the crops we eat. So obviously they essentially in the whole life circle and how the food is produced in a natural and in an agricultural way as well. So first of all, thank you for the invitation.
Oh no, thank you for coming on.
And I'm very happy because Art of Honey would like to be, one of the Manchester honey company. There is no honey companies here in Manchester, and we would like to support local initiatives, helping beekeepers and initiatives helping beekeeping and honey production in the UK. So basically, what was the question?
I talk too much and it doesn't help when I talk to everybody before the show as well. So I was wanting to ask you, what are the benefits of bees, both for our health and environmentally?
Yeah. So the benefits of the bees are obviously, as I said, the pollination of the crops and the health benefits of the honeys. Like East Europe and in Russia, for centuries, we use different types of honey for different illnesses, not illnesses, the complementary medicine. Unfortunately, UK, the complementary treatments are just coming into the social consciousness nowadays. But the nectar and the honey from different flowers has different effects and benefits to the human bodies. So obviously, I'm looking from. I was keeping bees in Hungary for years, and we have connection with beekeepers for generations, and I would like to establish here in the UK some hives and just pass it on to my kids.
You've got something going at the moment, haven't you, with another Manchester company called Coffee for Craig? Can you tell me about that?
Yes, the Coffee for Craig it's an amazing charity organisation here in Manchester, set up 4 or 5 years ago by Arisha, and they just received a plot of land in Salford, and I always had this mind because I love the metaphor of the beehive as a perfect model of a society.
Well, it is. It's a perfect community, isn't it? And everybody working together.
Yes, and everybody has their role. So it's a perfect society model.
So Coffee for Craig have just been given this plot of land, haven't they, in Salford?
Yes, it's Coffee for Craig working with the homeless community here in Manchester. And basically my idea was, since I have a small office in the city centre, and they just cannot avoid to bump into loads of homeless people in the city centre.
They're everywhere at the moment.
Yes,
it's so hard to see people suffering in this way, isn't it?
Yes, especially here in the winter. So basically my idea was that it came all from this intellectual conclusion that as a beehive, we as human society, we should support them and they should have their own place in the bigger picture. So because they're not productive, like they still have their place in the society, and the people in the society are better off. We should be able to support them in a way where they feel that
we need to do a lot more. I personally want to do a lot more to help the homeless and try and end homelessness, even if we do it one city at a time and have it rolled out. I think it's something we need to do because we can't be in a society today where people have so much wealth and then there's people on the streets with absolutely nothing. It doesn't work, and I think a lot more needs to be done at home and then help the people around us, and then we can, as I said, roll it out across the board. So with the plot of land in Salford, Coffee for Craig, which are a local Manchester homelessness charity, they've just been given this plot of land, and you've approached them, haven't you, to work with them to do something called Hive Mind?
Yes, Hive Mind. It came to the idea that I would just spend sometimes. It's even that doesn't sound good to teach homeless people beekeeping, but essentially that's
it's
what I would like to do. Yes, giving them skill, just spend some quality time with them. Because if you see all these tents popping up in the summer, so homeless people, they love nature. You know, they love even if you tell them in the midsummer, okay, move into this building, most of them would choose not to because they like to stay in the park in the summer. So they like to be in nature, and this profession is obviously seasonal. It's only for the summer months, but
so what months do beekeeping? What months does it happen?
So basically, the season of beekeeping, obviously from the spring is to late autumn.
Okay.
So you start from March when the bees start to collect some pollens. March, April, and obviously after the early nectars and the spring crop, and after the summer crop in the summer months.
So what do you do during winter then, as a beekeeper?
We just get bored and make lots of kids.
Make loads of kids and find initiatives that you can help with. Yeah, find other things you can get involved with.
So, no, even because the weather is usually mild here in the winter, you can open the hives even in winter months. But that's basically the hibernation for the bees, and just preparation for the new year. So basically, what I would like to achieve is to show and introduce beekeeping a couple of dozens of homeless people, and have like a growing number of hives in this allotment or many allotments in Manchester, and creating a brand around it where all the sold honey goes back to this charity.
Like you get with coffee beans and things like that when they're grown in other countries. We all know that the honey has been grown by this initiative, by HiveMind.
Yes.
And people by contributing, by buying the honey, will be helping this project to help people into work.
Yes. And also I have commercial beekeeper friends who always complain that there are no any help, or they cannot find any seasonal workers in the summer months to help them to carrying the hives around.
Well, yeah, it must be all hands on deck for the time that you're not working, and then when it comes to actually doing it must be all hands on deck.
Yeah, so there are lots of potential in this thought, and I think Manchester is the perfect city to start this initiative, and also the other organizations are already interested. That's how the syllabus is built, and how would we achieve our aim, but hopefully it will happen, yes, from May.
We know that the bees are unfortunately dying out, and we need to do more to help bees.
Yes.
So obviously the work that you do does help bees, but why are they dying? Why are they dying out?
No one knows exactly, because most of this news of the bees dying and this hive collapse, they're coming from America. So obviously
sometimes it's pesticides, isn't it, or infections?
Yes, the pesticides and the radioactive waves all around them. You know what we use, and just more and more monoculture.
Actually, I hadn't thought of that. Maybe things like our Wi-Fi and our different signals that we're using, maybe it's interfering with their radar and how they communicate.
Some beekeepers they swear that's it, because obviously how the bees they communicate and navigate themselves. It's very much.
They have the buzz, don't they? But there's actually the buzz within the hive as well, isn't there? There's a sound that makes. It sounds crazy. There's a sound within the hive, isn't there, that people can record? I heard something recently of a recording taken from inside the hive, and it was a buzzing, and it was from all the manoeuvres and the noise of the bees as well. But it was like a constant buzzing and a constant vibration.
Yeah. It's very calming as well. So that's when you close to a beehive, you become very calm
hypnotized,
and tranquil. Yes.
Hypnotized by the noise.
I love, and I just want to share that experience with other people. That's why most of these beekeepers, they addicted. Once you start it, you can't give up, because it just something draws you into that environment where bees are, So this collapse of hives. So there are many reasons people they don't know. Is also the agricultural, that how we it's a monoculture, that how we plant only one type of plant into the whole big area. So obviously that doesn't help the bees, and also like 97% of meadows, they disappeared in the UK since the Second World
How
War.
is that going to affect other animals though? If our bees die out, obviously it's going to affect our diet massively because it contributes to a third of what we eat. But how is it going to affect other animals? Because they obviously can't go to the supermarket and look for other food, can they?
Yes, I don't think so it's that bad because they live much longer than human beings. So obviously, hopefully they survive us. But obviously there is a real danger, and because
obviously all the wild flowers and all the crops that are getting pollinated by the bees, if the bees aren't there to do that job, then what are the wildlife going to eat?
Yeah, so not much, or basically now the problem is that the wildflowers disappear. That's why like we have these little initiatives where we just give away like wildflower seeds with
what
with
can
the
people do as individuals to help the bees?
Just plant more wildflower seeds. Like it's so simple. Or
put
just
wildflower
don't
seeds in your garden.
Yeah, just don't cut one segment of your garden. Just let whatever flower grows naturally. Just let them grow and let the bees and the
See, Dad, there's a reason I'm not cutting my grass. I'm saving the
bees. Yeah, you have the excuse
Always
now.
in trouble for not cutting my grass.
But I see in Manchester on Princess Parkway, I don't know that it's obviously it's a council initiative that they just saw a couple of years ago. Like
it would be great to see more wildflowers.
Yes,
it would be really
and they
nice.
look beautiful as well.
Because obviously now we have Piccadilly Gardens, and we've got the lovely fountains, and they look great. But it's very much a concrete monstrosity now compared to if you look back at old photos of how it was park and Piccadilly Gardens were actual gardens. But if we could have more spaces of wildflowers in and around the city, that would be fantastic.
Yes, and the council can really take a lot because there are lots of council lands where nothing happens. So there we just need some funds which can benefit these plot of land.
Do you find, so you've mentioned the wildflower seeds, but is there any particular flowers that you can recommend that people can plant in their gardens at home to help with the bees?
I'm not good with names. I have obviously, like
I know that I've got some lavender in my garden and it's always covered, and I know bees are attracted to blue.
Lavender has because it has loads of nectar in it, for example. So, but there are if you use Google, obviously, there are lots of plants. If you just bee-friendly flowers, they just give you a list which flower has. Really
I know personally that buddleia is one that people say.
Which is buddleia?
It's a big blue one. They love blue, don't they? Bees love blue, but the lavender outside my house, as I said, it's always covered in bees, and so butterflies as well, which also
the lavender
help.
honey is very nice as well.
Lavender honey, that's really, really good.
In France, they make very nice lavender honey, in South England as well. So basically, just look, in the spring they need more pollen, and in the summer they need more nectar. So these the wildflowers
What more do you think could be done on like a governmental level to like create awareness?
I don't know. It's a hard question because here in the UK, like obviously Hungary is a beekeeping nation. So like the second, third biggest in Europe. So obviously we have lots of initiative and funds towards the beekeeping. Here in UK I haven't found anything. Here is the last 10 years the hobby beekeeping is massive. So in the trade shows where I go with my brand, I met like obviously a couple hundred people and dozens and dozens of people say, oh yeah, I have 2, 3, 5, 10 hives in the back garden, which is amazing. But what I would like to see is more commercial beekeeping. Now there is one initiative from the government. They make they plant 50 million trees from Liverpool to Hull, this northern forest, or I forgot the name. But the next 25 years there will be a massive stretch of forest from Liverpool to Hull. So obviously that will change the whole.
That'll be real
ecosystem.
Significant difference.
Yes, that can change the whole ecosystem here in the north, because the worst is UK, where the proportion of forest is only like 10% of the land is forest, and most of the land obviously owned by individuals. So the government, they don't have any authority over the privately owned land. So that's the other problem that.
So we need to look at where can we be planting extra plants, where can we be bringing more flowers into
and in the privately owned lands, like it's just education of the owners that they don't have to mow it down, or what plants they should plant them, what wildflower seed they should sow. And obviously that's why these programs that you do now is very important, because
We just need to create more awareness, don't
yes,
we? And actually be
yes.
looking on a bigger scheme of what can we do, because this isn't something that it's just like, oh, we need to save this, we need to save that. We actually do need to save the bees for our economy, for our food system, for our wildlife. We need to be doing more and creating more awareness.
And also there's a massive shortage of English honey. So for now, like obviously I'm importing most of my honey from Hungary. But there is like only 5% of honey consumption.
Only 5%?
Yes, is
actually done in the UK. So we need to be doing more to do more with beekeeping, with creating more honey in the country. You know, when we go to the supermarket though, and we can see some really cheap brands of honey, and then we can see some really expensive brands of honey. And I've got a jar of yours here, this Art of Honey, which is your brand. Occasionally, this looks really great. I can't wait to eat that later. So, what are the differences between a cheaper honey and a more expensive honey?
Yeah, so basically, I wouldn't call the cheaper honey because they just sugar syrup.
Oh right, okay.
Yes.
So they made to taste like honey, but they're not actually honey.
Yes, obviously, like the ultimate test is when you taste like pure honey from the supermarket, pure forest honey, and it just leaves like this over sweet aftertaste in your mouth. That's definitely not pure honey, because whatever pure honey you eat, the aftertaste, it just resembles the ingredients of that nectar. So if it's forest, it should have like a bouquet of oaky, smoky taste in your tongue. So these and it's unfortunately UK is one of the worst country where
to do some honey tasting rather than wine tasting.
Yeah, so it's like where these cheap Chinese honey are imported. And obviously, because like you cannot sell 340 grams honey for 1 or 2 pounds. It just
people
doesn't
don't
make
always
sense.
know what they're buying, do they? Sometimes if you've got a recipe and it says you need honey in it, people will just go to the shop and they'll buy a cheaper brand just because they're putting it in something and they're not actually eating it for the honey content. They're just using it as an ingredient. Yeah,
that's fine, but just you have to know that's not pure honey. And even if they say pure honey, it cannot be justified. It's when you say even non-EU honey, I would avoid all of those brands, because non-EU honey, you don't really know the origin of it. It can come in China. There's a very good documentary recently released on Netflix. Obviously, I forgot the title because I'm not very good with names. But the first part is about how they counterfeit honey or adulterate honey. And
so that probably is just like a sugary solution, isn't it?
Yes, and obviously it's mainly coming from China, because because the number of beehives are declining, but the honey consumption is increasing, and also the honey supply is increasing. So that doesn't make sense that how is it possible without bees producing more honey.
So when the brand that's getting done in Manchester that you're doing with Hive Mind and Coffee for Craig, what will that honey be called? Has it got a name yet?
Yeah, I'm thinking, but what do you think? I would like to call it Northern Soul.
Northern Soul, that'd be a good honey name, wouldn't it? But keep us up to date with everything that's going on with that, and we'll keep everybody up to date with blogs, maybe a future show. We'll talk about it on social media. But thanks so much for coming in today. We all need to be planting more flowers, more blue flowers, and helping the bees, because otherwise it's going to have drastic effects on our economy, on our environment. There's so much change that will happen if we don't save the bees. So anyway, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you to everybody for tuning in and watching. Thanks to all my crew here involved today. If you haven't yet subscribed to the show, head over to www.mediasoundwave.co.uk, where you can hit the subscribe button. Don't miss any future shows. You'll be able to go on the Meet the Experts section, where you'll find more information about Erik and our other guests on the shows. Thanks again, and we'll see you again here soon on Media Soundwave.
Thank you. Bye.